Dan Sutton did not sexually grope this young man. Attorneys have a way of telling stories sometimes better than the accuser themselves, and I guess we'll find out if that's the case as these hearings proceed. Implicit in Mr. McMahon's remarks detailing Dan's relationship with people in the school system in Flandreau is wrongdoing. When you know the entirety of Mr. Sutton's involvement in the school system as the head of the drum line, as a substitute teacher, as someone who indeed did befriend many students in high school, including Kyle Weiss, including Austin Weiss, as well as young women, none of them ever experienced anything consistent with what now Austin Weiss says. So now we must measure, as we consider the testimony here, Austin Weiss's statements against his actions, what he did or didn't do, and the members of this committee will have to decide just how credible he is. Further implicit in these remarks is that Senator Sutton was a sexually aggressive predator of some sort. I will ask, as you listen throughout these proceedings, and even based on your own personal interactions with Mr. Sutton, whether that fits the picture of this man that you had. Furthermore, you will have to judge Austin Weiss's credibility when he suggests to you that he was frozen, as I heard counsel say, incapable of acting, as I heard counsel say. I don't believe that's the personality of the young man that was in that room, as counsel would suggest. The relationship between these families in this community is complicated. Once good, now not good. It involves business relationships between the father and between Dan Sutton and a failed business venture in that community where the community has lost $750,000 under the leadership of Austin Weiss's father. They're now being sued. Dan Sutton is the head of the corporation that loaned the money. What, if anything, does it mean, and what, if anything, does the political rivalry mean? I don't know, and I'm not suggesting, as I sit here today, I have the answer. But I ask you to consider the following. As a criminal defense attorney and someone involved in matters related to law enforcement, in my own experience now for over 20 years, I do know that when law enforcement is presented with a complaint of a crime, if they are persuaded there's probable cause, they effect an arrest. This case has been under investigation by the Attorney General and the Stanley County State's Attorney now for nearly a year. There has been no arrest. One might say, well, it's one person's word against another. Well, I can assure you that there has not been a lack of effort on the part of law enforcement to find another word. They have chosen not to effectuate an arrest. What significance does that have? You will decide it for yourself. Dan Sutton faces far more here today than merely a judgment. He faces the loss of his good office, the loss of what is left with his reputation, the loss, perhaps, of respect, of business opportunity, because of the accusations made by this young man. And as I examine the rules that this committee will apply in considering its judgment, I saw no rule on what would be the standard of proof by which you would make a decision. One can say things that have a powerful effect, particularly when they involve allegations of sex, and the allegation alone in some people's minds is sufficient. As I have examined this evidence and questioned what went on in this room, questioned why this young man said or did the things he did or didn't say and didn't do the things he did, I don't have the answers to everything. And then when you come to know Senator Sutton and those people who know him and the kind of human being that he is, there's absolutely no way one can reconcile what he's accused of with the kind of person that he is. But I accept that you are the fact finders and the judges in this case. And I do appreciate the opportunity now to represent my client. I will do so within the rules set, but I will do so as an advocate. I have come to believe over the years that the adversarial system of truth finding is a good system. But that won't be the case here either. I don't know in the end what will happen. I couldn't possibly. But I do know this. I know that this young man's father, the evidence will show, went to the Attorney General. I know this young man and this father, not more than a few days after these accusations that have been detailed by counsel were made, they sat at the same table with them and ate a meal. I know that only a few months later that this same father, knowing what his son accused Senator Sutton of, stood up before public bodies and endorsed Dan Sutton's candidacy for the Senate, referred to him as a good man. Now I ask any of you here, who, if they believed what their son told them, would do that for the man who was accused? I know that this same man contacted Dan Sutton and asked him for his public endorsement. This after knowing what his son supposedly accused Senator Sutton of doing. Now I ask any of you, common sense, would you ask the man who you believe or were told molested your son to endorse your candidacy for office? Now, I don't know what it means, but one possible meaning is that either the father wasn't sure the son was telling the truth, or the father was such a political animal, if you will, that he could separate out those allegations from his own political ambition. I don't know which. I don't know what the answer is. I also know, again, it was the father who instigated contact with Senator Schoenbeck after the incident in Washington, D.C., known as Bowleygate, seeking to take advantage of the publicity of the moment. Again, this after having endorsed Senator Sutton, having sought his endorsement. I know that this young man called his brother. And according to this young man, his own brother expressed skepticism at the allegations. Kyle Weeks, best friend of Dan. Why did law enforcement not charge him? Why do these people closest to him act the way they act? Perhaps it is because of their own doubts. They know him, they know the senator. Members of the committee, only by saying, please consider the consequences and the burden of proof that you will impose upon yourself to make the ultimate judgment in these cases. And what burden of proof will that be is obviously for you to decide. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Butler.
Only by saying, please consider the consequences and the burden of proof that you will impose upon yourself to make the ultimate judgment in these cases. And what burden of proof will that be is obviously for you to decide. Thank you.